Hello, everyone. Welcome back to PCG, Peace, Cooperation, and Growth, a change effort in Philadelphia. My name is Lead Element. In our last episode, I talked to you about the democratic institution, and the influences that certain elements had on those institutions to create policies that affect our options, how we think, how we behave, and other outcomes of interest. I asked you to stop and take a look at those power structures, at the policy power structure in the context of you as a man accepting responsibility in all of this. Now, it's hard for you, or it's hard for anyone, to really develop the proper perspective of the policy industry if you don't know how it's actually shaped, if we don't know its actual structure. So we have to discuss these things before we engage in our change effort. In the meantime, I want you to think about how you can bring peace, how you can personally contribute to peace within our communities, not just the Black communities, but all communities. Right now, you can start thinking about how you can contribute to that peace, how you can start to discuss what you can offer to some cooperation strategy that will bring growth to our city. You don't need to wait until we actually begin to meet in the streets to put things together. You start now. But today we're going to talk a little bit about how the policy industry works. And we're going to start with a very interesting story, and I'll put a description in the link, or I'll put some information in the description section explaining where this information comes from. But here's an interesting story that will help you understand a little bit about the policy industry. Our schools and government officials will have you believe that every American has a right to access the policy industry and to make our voices heard. But we're going to go back to 1973 and a special little meeting that took place back then that deals with this issue. In 1973, three groups of people had a special meeting. The North Americans, the Western Europeans, and the Japanese. These people met to discuss if there was a problem governing the democracies around the world. These people were the liberals. These were the liberals meeting to discuss this issue. They had concerns that democracies were in decay. You see, the problem was, prior to the 1950s and 60s, the U.S. government was able to function with the president and a handful of Wall Street bankers and lawyers without too much interference from the public. But after the Vietnam War, people started questioning the motives of our government and wanted to have a say in our domestic and foreign policy. And that was a problem. That was a problem for Washington and the power elites. And their response to Americans wanting to have more say, and U.S. policy was not self-reflection. They did not engage in introspection to see how they perhaps went wrong and how they could extend democracy, improve American democracy. Their response was that there's too much democracy, and people like ethnic white groups, blacks, natives, Hispanics, Chicanos, were to be removed and discouraged from entering the political arena. They considered more minorities engaging in policy to be a crisis of democracy, because what it would do is it would force the policy technocrats to now listen to diverse interests rather than just the interests of the wealthy. Do you get this point? My point is, the U.S. policy industry was never actually meant to include you. It was always meant to appear open to you. But the historical record shows otherwise. And even though this particular meeting took place in 1973, this had always been the case. This has always been the case. You need to read more. Please read more about this problem. So as we look across the landscape in Philadelphia to figure out how we as black men are going to get together to shape our communities, even though we're going to push aside those who continue to doubt our abilities, we will engage our local government. We will improve policy. We will have policy discussion together with local and state officials. But we must develop an eye. We must develop an eye for what policy is, where it comes from. It's beautiful language, but it's real intent. I'm not saying to be overly suspicious. I'm saying we have to develop a critical eye whenever we make a move. You must understand that the moment people hear that black men are getting together, even though we already admitted that we're not coming together just to improve ourselves and withdraw from society, we're getting together so that we can join in with the other proud ethnic groups of Philadelphia to make our community great for all of us. But there will be those people who call you racist, call you thugs, call you black identity extremists. They're going to call you all sorts of things. You have to be strong from the get-go. Policy elites are not interested in you coming to the table. You have to understand that from the get-go. You have to be strong straight out of the gate. But being strong is not that whining, doubtful, lazy man. You have to be a thinking, creative, powerful man. And what one of us can't do, 20 of us can do. And what 20 of us can't do, 100 of us can do. And what 100 of us can't do, 1,000 of us can do. You know. So we'll discuss this a little bit more in the next episode. But understand, we have some work ahead of us. Things aren't as they seem. My name is Lead Element. We'll be talking again.